To start to start this off, I would like to flex a very important and mostly unique advantage that Minnesota has that other states do not, because of course I would. I live here. I don't live in a secondhand description of here. I live in Minnesota. I live in actual real world Minnesota, and it is different from the secondhand description you have heard from other people, for better and especially for worse. Like, I know there are people who are more comfortable in their own head in reality, and Minnesota is one of those things where you should not be doing that. If you are, I know who you are, I know what you are, and I know you're lying, and I am going to call you a liar. An election here in the great state of Minnesota, because the time spent making laws is restricted by the state constitution to the spring and into the summer. So, because of this, a lot of bad ideas just get thrown out immediately. And the session usually focuses on more popular things. I am pleased to inform the people of Minnesota that there is no age verification in the 2026 Minnesota legislative session, which is great for you and me and even this cat, for anything other than AI chatbots. Anything like ChatGPT, just Gemini, just Lumo, or whatever chatbot you fancy. Those are the only things that could be affected by the upcoming session and could require some kind of age verification. It seems like something that makes sense, but then again, any age verification seems like something that makes sense on the surface. And map the real world to the internet, you see one as one, you see them as the same thing. It makes sense that material that could traumatize kids, that there is plenty of scientific proof that it does, but not adults, would require the verification of somebody's age. It makes sense on the surface. You need an ID to get items that do that to the mind or the body. You need an ID to get tobacco, to get anything with THC, and to get any sort of media or object that is meant only for adults. It makes sense to do whatever is possible to make sure that this content that is psychologically harmful for children, especially, and even teenagers, has some safety precautions, like in the real world. There is one major problem, though, that everybody who has anything to say about computers, which part of the reason there is no big age verification bill in the Minnesota legislature is we have computer scientists in the state house and the state senate who know what a computer is, who know how computers work. We have lawmakers that might be furries and definitely have lawmakers with furry children. And there are proposals in the federal legislature. I hope Kelly Morrison, my federal representative, is listening, by the way. So if you give a damn about the kids, then listen up. Age verification, if it is implemented anywhere, is a fantastic tool for child abuse and child abusers. It is the thing that the Epstein class is thirsting to have, but they're doing it anyway, and they love to kidnap and commit bodily harm, Epstein crimes, against children everywhere, because the Epstein crimes that took place while Epstein was alive are still happening. And there are some psychos who had their parents pay for their attitude. Mostly billionaires, but also people with connections to them, who think it is okay to kidnap and commit crimes against children. They're Epstein crimes. And they're still happening after Epstein is dead. They don't have a ringleader anymore, but if anything, that makes the situation worse. There are certainly billionaires, some of them in Silicon Valley. I'm not going to preface this with an allegedly. I know this is a thing. That are using their yachts, their private jets, their mobile machines. They'll go out into or over the ocean and commit Epstein crimes against children who see this as some kind of power flex. It's not like what happens when someone poor does it, where it is a genuine psychological defect that needs to be corrected because it causes harm. It's not like trans where it's you have this thing and you can take a cure and it cures you, and you're trans, your gender dysphoria is cured by being trans. Being trans is not the mental illness, it is the cure for one. It is not like that where it only changes oneself and is not harmful, and if anything is the opposite. This is something that if you are not rich, it is about as much of a choice as your sexual orientation. And it is rare, but it happens, and there are treatment centers that people should be able to just go to and say, hey, I have these urges and I need something to make them go away before it becomes a crime. Minnesota is like the closest state to having something like this, but we have separate prisons for that, and for good reason. But for billionaires, it is very much a conscious choice and effort that could not be made at all, but they're doing it anyway, and they love to kidnap and commit bodily harm, Epstein crimes, against children. As a power move, as a flex, as a loud screech onto the world of what are you going to do about it. This is certainly a thing. It is certainly something that Peter Thiel is involved with and wants more of. It is something that is very much a possibility. And the companies pushing for this are very much aware that this will be the inevitable outcome of it, and they do not give a fuck. Because they have other people to fuck in mind. Age verification is not only a bad idea, it does the exact opposite of what is stated on the tin. With age verification laws, anyone, never mind the tech billionaires and the people who work for them, anyone can quickly make a list, a database. They could throw lines of code in emails, on websites. It could be a drive-by download. anything of the sort. It could be a bad commit in a project. You can just have a list of children in the area, and they could be you. You're on it. If you're in an age verification part of the world, they certainly are. And I am certain the Epstein class knows this and is using it to their advantage. Age verification laws do not protect children, they put them into more harm. Not just psychological harm, not just harm of their privacy or security or yours. They put them in physical bodily harm. And this is even more true for the white children that are being sought after. If you're in an age verification part of the world, they certainly are. And I am certain the Epstein class knows this and is using it to their advantage. Age verification laws do not protect children, they put them into more harm. Not just psychological harm, not just harm of their privacy or security or yours. They put them in physical bodily harm. And this is even more true for the white children that are being sought after. Age verification is a bad idea that does the opposite of what people assume it will do. And even if there are laws that say it has to be local, it has to be on device, it has to be done in a secure way, it is absolutely not. And even with the best intentions, there will be leaks, and with those leaks will become an updated list of who is a child on the internet by the information given out. So if you're in California and you declare with your date of birth that you, on your operating system, which is a very bad idea, having it on a website makes more sense, it's more secure, it is way more difficult to hack than your own machine. California's age verification law, its age attestation, would allow a quick gathering of who is a child on the internet, who is a child computer, and that puts every child in way more danger than the content itself being distributed to them. There is an alternate proposal, and I think California and Colorado are somewhat on the right track. It's just the mandatory part and the putting of the actual age on the device that I have issues with. There's a cure for this. There is something that can be done, and it harkens back all the way to Roku. Kind of a bad example, but it does use similar technology. Today, it's called a beat chip. It's named after the vertical blanking interval that televisions used to have. And in that vertical blanking interval, the part that you're not supposed to see on the screen, and if you do, you probably have your TV adjusted wrong or are using some commercial display where you might actually need that. You get the closed captions. You can get it in multiple language. You can have a second audio channel being distributed digitally. This was before the digital transition, where a lot of this is irrelevant, but you can modernize and apply it, and this has been done to television. Standard that is put into browsers in which, well, you yourself, if you really feel like it, adjust a dial of what you want to see based on the rating of the content. And of course, to have parents do that, to enable the conversation that my parents had with me, that there are things online that are just not made for you at your age. It's a hell of a lot more sense. Put it on your own website if you want, where you put like a TV style rating on your website and it clearly explains who this is and what this is meant for. That logic, but as like a mandatory browser extension, that makes a hell of a lot more sense. and putting that on app stores, which is already a thing, to have the E, the M, the T, and also have public service announcements. This would do a lot more to benefit and prevent this content from getting in the hands of minors. For a standard V-chip-like app extension on browsers, something that anyone can toggle, and if necessary, if the parents insist, put a PIN code on. And if you do it this way, if you go with my proposal, you're not handing over your information on the internet. You're not handing over your driver's license number, your face, which Peter Thiel is absolutely using to train his AI models. You don't give your home address. You don't have to do anything like that. You can protect your kids from the content without having to put them in harm's way, which is not. It's all on your device, and it's all following a standard rating system. And there are certainly websites that will not do this, and that's fine. But then the browser has to say it's unrated and mark it unrated. And if it is something that is intended for children, you don't want to do that. Because then people are going to raise eyebrows. And if it is not made for children, well, then it's pretty safe to say this is not. It's all on your device, and it's all following a standard rating system. And there are certainly websites that will not do this, and that's fine. But then the browser has to say it's unrated and mark it unrated. And if it is something that is intended for children, you don't want to do that. Because then people are going to raise eyebrows. And if it is not made for children, well, then it's pretty safe to say this site is not acting in good faith and should not be looked at. And that site is not acting in good faith and should not be looked at. And that's it. If they're not going to mark their adult content adult, that's not a good thing. That means they're sketchy. They're one of those sketchy things that people in places with age verification go to, where there is actual crime taking place, not just paid consenting adults, actual crimes. They have been sent people into those dark corners, and that needs to be avoided. There's always going to be demand for adult content made only for adults, so let's make sure that only adults get them, and people have the tools and knowledge available to make sure that is the case. That's better, that's more secure, and that is going to protect the children infinitely more than requiring the scanning of your government ID, your face, or both. The companies that profit off of age verification know this. And that's why we need to push for it anyway. And if you love freedom too, in the real way, then you know what to do. I'm going to be making more content like this. And as always, subscribe if you like, and if you care. I gotta go to work.